and welcome to the Legal Eagle. My guest on the show today is one of the most prominent lawyers in the country, someone who's known to be a very fine, refined lawyer, and also someone who's known for his passion for tax law and also for his writing of books, some of which have helped law students over the years. I welcome on the show someone who's been practicing for 4 decades, Mr. Arvind Datar, Senior Advocate in the Supreme Court of India. Sir, as I thank you, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. As I welcome you on the show, I want to begin at the very start because a lot of people want to understand what they have to learn from your life and your learnings, your dealings. But I want to begin at the start when you, Mr. Datar, chose law to be your profession. Your father was a captain in the Merchant Navy. You completed your BSc Honours from Bombay University. Were you fond of debating at that time? What were the kind of lectures you went to? What impacted you to take law as the main career that you took on, sir?
Yes, thank you for inviting me on the show. I'm happy to be here. Quite a few of my colleagues have already spoken on this platform. To answer your question, yes, law was a bit of an accident. I wanted to join the Merchant Navy like my dad, and the ambition was to start a shipping company later. So I wanted to have my own ships and so on and so forth. That was a big dream. But it was dashed because of some medical reasons. I could not qualify. Medically, was had some surgery which disabled me from joining the Merchant Navy. At that time, the training ship was Rajendra. So I could join, and that's how then I went to BSc, and then I stood a lot of debating for the Ruya College. I was in the Ramnarayan Ruya College, and I was a very active, keen debater. I was so in my school as well. And in college, it continued, and then I attended some lectures of Palkiwala. Then I started gaining interest in debating and so on and so forth. So after finishing BSc Honours, I wasn't very excited about science, so to speak. So I said, let me try my hand at law and cost accounting. I wanted to do accounting mainly to be a good tax lawyer. Though cost accounting was a means to an end, the end was to be a lawyer. And that's how I decided to be a lawyer. And once I decided to be a lawyer, I decided to come back to Chennai, which is my hometown. We've been here since 1960, so 61. So I decided to come back to Chennai practice. My parents were here. And I joined the Madras Law College. It's now called the Ambedkar Law College. And that's how my legal journey began.
Mr. Datar, how did you manage to do tax? Because we heard you did tax, accounting, law all at the same time. What were those initial years like? You planned your life from the very start, sir. Nothing was left to chance. I find this most inspiring, sir. It's evident you're very focused, you're very detailed. I also heard that you said you were inspired by the great Palkiwala, sir, and we all have been reading his judgments. We've all been hearing about his eloquence in the courts for the longest time. Your good self also read many biographies. You once said everything went as per schedule. Nothing happens by accident. Please elaborate and explain this to us, sir.
You can't take it to an extreme. There are some things which you have no control over. But by and large, yes, most things went according to plan. When I joined the Ruya College in Bombay after my BSc, I attended some lectures of Mr. Palkiwala. Then I followed his budget speeches and so on. And that was an interest which was separate. But I also was a very active debater. I used to love to debate particularly on economic topics and other topics. And I decided to take up law. And I said, what subject to do? I said, taxation. And the inspiration was, of course, Mr. Palkiwala's thing. And I also had a great interest in economics and how a nation's finances work and so on. I used to quite regularly read the Economic Times whenever I got a chance at college and so on. And so I decided to do tax. Then I found that if I have to do tax, I should know accounts. And I had a choice of doing a diploma in accounting or something. I said, let me do my cost accountancy. Because at that time, you could do cost accountancy. We had the Southern India Regional Institute of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and they had, by a coincidence, evening classes. So I could do law in the morning from 9 to 1, and I could do cost accounting in the evening. So that was a very happy combination. I could not do my CA because it would have meant going out of town for audits and so on and so forth. And I started my law college.
Yes. And Mr. Datar, it was in 1980 you enrolled in the bar. In 1984 you began your career. You wanted to practice tax law, but in the start it was a tough time. How did you supplement your income? How much was it paid in those days? Why did you not? I heard at one time you did not go to your client's office. Why did you not go to your client's office at that time? What was that era like?
Oh, you asked so many questions in one go, so I'll try to answer them bit by bit. Well, I did. No, when I was in law college itself, I decided that I will learn civil law for a year. Someone told me that it's better to understand the basics of civil law, and I was advised not to directly specialize. So I did 1 year of civil law with Mrs. Ramani Natarajan. I learned a lot of the basics of civil law, and then I joined a very good tax office in Madras. And I think I owe a lot to both my mentors, my gurus, who taught me the basics of civil litigation and tax litigation. And right from the beginning, I decided that I will set up my own practice exactly on the 4th year after I joined the bar, because I said there's no point being a junior for endless. If I had to be an independent counsel, I had to start sooner or later. So I did start, and as you say, it was a very, very difficult time. After I set up my own practice, I had not a single brief for 6 months. So just going to the court and sitting in the bar library, writing articles. A stray case came, and then, as I said, there's a criminal lawyer who helped me. He had a lot of extra civil work, and I started doing his civil cases. And as you mentioned, that fees are very low. I mean, I used to get 60 rupees for a house rent appeal, rent control appeal per appeal. And my fees as a junior first was 100 rupees, then it came to 300 rupees in 81, it was 150. Then when I left my practice, I was getting about 300 or 350 rupees. But mind you, the rupee went a long way. It was not, don't think of the rupee as it now. I would go from my house, which is quite far away, to the High Court, and the bus fare was 25 paise. As a young person, you're not even seeing what a 25 paise coin is. But that went a long way. I mean, to give you perspective, those of you in Bombay, I think I used to take a trip from Pune to Bombay by Deccan Queen, and the second class ticket was 10 rupees or 9 rupees 80 paise. So when you say 300 rupees, it was a good amount of money. Many engineers started with 300, 500 rupees, and getting a 4-figure salary was almost reaching heaven, So I remember those days, the ideal bridegroom was somebody who had a 4-figure salary, for 1,000 rupees. So they're completely different days, but they are fun.
When you come and skip to these days, when there are youngsters who want to make a quick buck, when they don't have the time to write a book, and I have to say here that Sir wrote a book and accomplished a rare book, at a national level book, at the age of 30. This only happens when one is ready to give that dedication to the field of law and passion. So what would your advice to people and youngsters, not only in the field of law, but in any field that they're starting out, be? Because this is no longer just about making a fast buck. Patience is something that is lost to this generation.
Well, I think youth has always been impatient. I don't say that we were not impatient. We were impatient. The present generation also is impatient. Of course, I think today, to a larger degree, people want to get going very fast now. They want to immediately get a car and get all the things, but it takes time. For me, as far as I'm concerned, there was no choice. I just didn't have work initially. And the only way to get yourself known was to write articles and write a book. And I decided when I joined the bar that I'll write a good book on taxation before my 30th year. Of course, I was 2 years late. My first book came when I was 32. But I wrote on central excise because that was a new subject. Excise really became popular in 86, and this was the right topic to write on. And that book really turned my fortune, so to speak. And of course, I could not have written the book. I had a lot of home support. My wife, she bore a lot of amount of loneliness also that the book was written. She would also help me in the proofs and it's a completely different world. We didn't have computers. My entire first edition was typed on a portable typewriter. So we didn't have any laptops or word processors. And if there was a mistake, the whole page had to be redone. The entire proofs were done manually. We would be trying the positives. My book was in Nagpur. I used to go to Nagpur 15 days at a time to sit and do the proofreading, again come back to Chennai, practice in the court, again go to Nagpur, again come back to Chennai. So it was a lot of hard work, and I owe it a lot to my family, my wife, my parents. Especially, it's not very difficult, not very easy to be lonely as a young bride. So it was very difficult times. So it is almost 2 years of absolutely back-breaking writing.
I want to come to Sir 2000. That was the year you were designated senior advocate. You had not applied to become a senior advocate yourself, unlike a lot of seniors who apply themselves. It was the Additional Solicitor General in Madras who applied for you in April. 3 months later, in July in 2000, you became a senior advocate. Why did you not apply for yourself? Because it's very clear. This shows me two things. One, that the fact that you immediately became a senior in 3 months shows your dedication, and the bar was very clear about it. They wanted you as a senior advocate, and this happened immediately. Secondly, sir, it also shows that there is a certain integrity and character that is rarely seen nowadays that was present there. You didn't want to apply for yourself. What was the thought process behind that?
There was a very eminent lawyer in Madras High Court called Mr. Govind Swaminathan. He was an advocate general, and he was a very famous lawyer. In fact, his mother was Ammu Swaminathan, was a freedom fighter and so on. And I had a lot of admiration for him. So once while working with him on a particular case, he was telling me that, as a senior counsel, you don't apply, you are called to be a senior. The other judges come and say that you apply, they invite you to be a senior. That was of course, that is gone now. Now that can't be done now. Everybody has to apply. But at my time, that was the position. And by 2000, I think I had a fairly good practice. And we had a lot of work. I used to do a lot of cases in the court. And one fine day when I was doing a particular case, I came out of the company court, and Mr. Maslamani, who was the Additional Solicitor General, he just called me and said, "Why haven't you become a senior?" I said, "Nobody's invited me." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm not going to apply. It's not proper." Then he just said that, "Do you mind if I apply for you?" I said, "It will be a great privilege." And that was just a coincidence in the corridor of the High Court. Then he immediately applied on my behalf, and another senior lawyer, Mr. Chandran, later became additional solicitor. He seconded my name. It so happened that the full court was meeting immediately. In those days, it had to be a unanimous full court opinion. There was no committee and so on. And then, as luck would have it, I got designated.
Yes, sir.
So I just decided that, it didn't really matter to me. I had enough of work. So, but then it was an honor, and I got designated in 2000, and now 21 years have passed.
Sir, I wanted to ask you about now mischievous PILs and this activism that has started through PILs. How do you perceive this? Do you think that the way the PILs are being filed is accurate?
Well, I definitely think that it's time to pause and check on how the PILs are filed and heard and taken up for hearing. We have to seriously decide the issue of the locus standi. Who is the petitioner before you? Why is he filing a PIL? What is the role of the thing? And now, if you see your legal website, whether it's Bar and Bench or Live Law or any other thing, every second day there's a PIL. For anything and everything, there is a PIL. And virtually no important activity can be carried out with a PIL. Today, I was in another high court. I won't mention the name, and there was a PIL for giving vaccines to advocates and their clerks, some PIL for some other thing. So everything is being going in for a PIL. So I think there is time to pause and see that to what extent can you approach the judiciary for social problems. It's not the role of the executive. And sometimes you have to see whether these PILs have been filed for publicity or for some kind of for putting your name in the paper or something like that. But definitely, I personally feel that it's time to pause and make sure that the PILs are admitted in a more strict fashion, and not everybody can file a PIL.
Yes, the locus needs to be decided. Mr. Datar, you've also written extensively and several times I've seen about the crushing effect and what happened, the chilling effect that had on the fundamental rights at the time of emergency. You've also spoken about it. I wanted to get a sense of how from then to now our fundamental rights are protected. You've written books on the Constitution, sir. So a sense of how from then to now our fundamental rights have been shaped.
I think emergency was, of course, a place where your fundamental rights were suspended. There were no fundamental rights at all. They were all suspended. You couldn't approach the court for redress. And it was a bad time. And I remember I was in Bombay in 75 when the emergency was announced. And it was a very shocking time. All the leaders were arrested. The newspapers wouldn't carry out information. So it was a very difficult time. And I joined the college at that time itself. So we were young students who were seeing what was happening. And fortunately, that period has not been repeated. We have made sure that Article 21 cannot be suspended even during an emergency, the right to life and well, there have been ups and downs as far as human rights are concerned. I'm only particularly worried about some kind of cases, too many cases of sedition being filed. That's my worry. For anything and everything, there's a case of sedition. And the other thing is not just about freedom of speech, etc. I'm also worried about this procedure of arresting somebody first and then sending him to trial later, whether it's a tax violation or other violation. The first person is put into jail, then he gets into judicial custody, and the custody keeps on getting extended. And later on, if he's acquitted, then what happens? So I personally feel that it's not necessary to arrest and put a person in jail. You can file an FIR against him, you can charge him, you can perhaps make sure that he doesn't leave the city without the permission of the authorities concerned. But why put a person in jail? It should be, Justice Krishna rightly said that jail should be the exception and bail should be the rule. But sadly, we are repeatedly ignoring that very salutary principle. That's the worrying part. Anything, everything, arrest a man first, and then you take 90 days to file a charge sheet or whatever you want to do after that.
Mr. Datar, today, because of COVID, we are seeing the e-proceedings, virtual proceedings in the courts of the country. How do you view them? And also, at such a time, what would your advice be to young lawyers who have more time on their hands? How should they be designing their day?
Yes. Frankly, our world has really turned upside down. I mean, last March in 2020, I did not know what was Zoom. I did not know what is Zoom and WebEx and Team. And all these were alien words to us, and now they are part and parcel of our lives. I must say that the court system, there are some minor hitches, but by and large, they have done a wonderful job in making virtual hearings a reality. I personally feel that on the whole, it's been a very, very good system where the courts have adapted themselves to virtual hearings, particularly the high courts. I'm told that there's a difficulty in the district courts because of bandwidth, connectivity, and so on. There, the lawyers are really suffering. So I think we'll have to address the point that even at the district court and magistrate court levels, at least the hearings start with virtual hearing. Now, asking the question about lawyers, yes, because of this time you have free time. Actually, all at the younger generation, when you don't have work, you do have free time. And I think that's the time when I said, like, writing a book or writing articles or participating in webinars and so on. That's the time when you can utilize your time best. And I've been telling some colleagues of mine that during the pandemic, when you don't have work, and mind you, you're saving so much time on travel. You don't have to travel to work. You're getting so many hours at home. The books are available. The internet is available. So I would recommend every young lawyer or young professional to get more and more deeper experience into his subject, as at the cost of repeating myself again and again. Right, there are so many blogs, there are so many newspapers, there are so many e-journals now where you can put forth your viewpoint. And don't worry about the immediate success or how many people read it. If you keep writing again and again and again, you'll really develop. Main thing is consistency, which I also falter sometimes, but the main thing is just writing repeatedly, week after week after week after week, and then eventually the success will come. What happens to many youngsters is they write 2-3 articles, there is no feedback, they get despondent. I mean, it's natural, but then that's where you have to push, and then ultimately, sooner or later, there'll be a snowballing effect, and then later on, the success will be much easier. But you have to just be prepared for a 1-2 year period where you have to just consistently write no matter what happens. But the results will come. It's not 6 months, 9 months, but the results will come.
Mr. Datar, I also want to ask you, since we spoke about COVID, we spoke about digital platforms. Some of the digital platforms like Twitter, they're facing somewhat friction with the government. There is news that has just come that their intermediary status has been revoked. We don't understand what the real friction is about, because all they had to do was comply with the IT rules, which has not happened. So the intermediary status being revoked is being said to be compromising national security. The government says this is about national security. Some say this is about freedom of expression. How are we to perceive this?
Well, I don't know the facts of the Twitter case in detail, so I don't want to comment on a particular platform like Twitter or something else. But I do know that Section 79 of the Information IT Act of 2000, Information Technology Act, they popularly call it the safe harbor. It says that intermediaries are protected from the content on their platform. So suppose something is said on the Facebook platform or the Twitter platform or the WhatsApp platform. WhatsApp can't be made liable. Facebook can't be made liable. So suppose there's a defamatory uh, content about, say, somebody says something about you on the Facebook platform, then you can sue the person saying it, but you can't make Facebook a party. Facebook gets immunity from these actions because they're only a platform where they're carrying somebody else's message. But what happens is that this is the law from 2011, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that if the intermediary, whether it is Twitter or any other social media, social intermediary, if it does not follow the rules, the acts in the country or the guidelines issued by the central government, they don't get immunity. That's all. So there's no question of being disqualified. I think the protection will not be there. Now, how that pans out, I don't know. But this is a law for a long time. It's not that something which has come now. So it's not that today the government has done something against Twitter or the rule has been there from the beginning. The rule is there for last several years, saying that if any social intermediary does not follow the guidelines, it loses immunity. So the protection is not available to you under Section 79. Either you challenge the guidelines in the court and get them struck down or declare them unconstitutional. But as long as the guidelines are there, you either follow it or you challenge it. The option is open to you. But once the guidelines are there, then you have to follow it unless you choose to challenge it. But it's not that this government, any government has done something new by, they have introduced new guidelines. If you find that they are violating the constitution, challenge them.
Sir, my last question to you. You're someone who's extremely disciplined. What are your passions other than law? How do you spend your day? I'm aware that you always ensure that you don't fetter it away by watching television, wasting your time. Every hour is well spent. So what would your advice to people be, and how are you planning to spend your days?
Well, I must tell you that it's a myth that I'm very disciplined. I personally feel I'm quite indisciplined. I have to be more disciplined. That's what I always feel. But I get to the office around 7 o'clock in the morning and I work till about 7 in the evening. I try not to work after that. I try to take Sundays off. So it's not that I'm just working all the time. It's not that. I do try to take Sundays off. I try to take vacations whenever I can. But yes, because of the pressures of work, I'm not able to watch television. I hardly watch television, except perhaps some little bit of news in the evening just before dinner. And we try to watch a movie once in a way, once in 15 days. Now that the other Netflix and other things are come into the evening, so we try to watch a movie once in a week. But unfortunately, I think if you're going to write books and write articles and so on, you'll have to necessarily let go of. But one thing I tell people is to please get off social media. I think it's a colossal waste of time. And you have to choose. Either you watch movies and then, then don't blame anybody if your practice doesn't pick up. So, and I think everything in life, either I see the choice. So if you, and ultimately what happens, you, me, anybody, whether it's Bill Gates or anybody, all of us have the same amount of time. We've got about 10, 12 hours of work per day. You can't work more than that because you've got other things to do, which beyond a point, at the most 10, 12 hours a day, you can work effectively. So in that time, if you're going to fritter away watching some TV or something else, then you have to pay the price for it, that's all. But it's individual choice. I don't want to say that watching TV is bad or watching a movie is bad. It's individual's choice. But I'm just saying that once you take that choice, then the consequences follow. And you can't have everything. You have to look a lot here. Like when I wrote my book, I must tell you that I didn't watch a movie for almost 2.5 years. So
amazing, sir. So that is dedication to not be giving yourself into entertainment or what people perceive as entertainment. But as I draw to an end on this legal, sir, the line that you said, everything happens per schedule, nothing happens by accident, makes a lot more sense, because this is as per schedule. If you actually give time to your daily work, 12 hours a day is a lot of time, Mr. Datar, and then you're ensuring that you're spending some time with the family, you're ensuring everything is in discipline, I'm very sure that things do take care of themselves. I thank you for being with us, ensuring and giving us advice on how to live our lives, and also for all the people who could have benefited from this. Thank you for being a part of the Legal this week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks to you and your team. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Bye.